Have you ever thought about what life is like in one of the poorest and most isolated countries in the world? A place where people have to work for hours just to afford a single meal, where many don't even have access to drinking water, and some areas are so remote that they feel like a completely different world. Today, we're heading to Madagascar, a country you might have only heard of from a famous animated movie, but the reality is far different from what you imagine. Stay with me until the end of the video because what you're about to see is truly astonishing. Madagascar, a land of beauty and struggle. Have you ever wondered what life is like in one of the poorest and most isolated countries in the world? A place where people have to work for hours just to afford a single meal, where many don't even have access to drinking water, and where some regions are so remote they feel like a different world altogether. Today, we're heading to Madagascar, a country you might know only from a famous animated movie, but the reality is far different from what you imagine. Stay with me until the end of this video because what you're about to see is truly astonishing. Madagascar, a remote island with a complex reality. Madagascar is a vast island, the fourth largest in the world, located off the east coast of Africa in the middle of the Indian Ocean. You might think an island nation means stunning beaches, crystal clear waters, and a dreamlike paradise. Well, that's partly true, but the reality is much more complicated. The people of Madagascar have a unique heritage, a blend of African and Southeast Asian ancestry, including Indonesian and Malay roots. The first settlers arrived over 2,000 years ago, crossing the ocean to reach this remote land. Later, French colonizers took control, and Madagascar remained a French colony until 1960. However, independence doesn't always mean progress, and the country is still struggling with major challenges today. Poverty in Madagascar, a country trapped in hardship. Madagascar is one of the poorest countries in the world, with over 75% of its population living on less than $2 per day. The nation is caught in a vicious cycle of poverty, caused by a mix of economic struggles, geographic isolation, and weak infrastructure. 1. Low income and a weak economy. Most people in Madagascar rely on subsistence farming, using small plots of land and traditional methods. However, climate change, soil degradation, and a lack of modern equipment have reduced agricultural productivity. Many farmers earn barely enough to survive and struggle to access international markets. 2. A failing education system. Widespread poverty forces many children to drop out of school and work to support their families. Rural schools lack teachers, equipment, and even basic facilities like electricity and clean water. As a result, low literacy rates continue, and the cycle of poverty remains unbroken. 3. Poor healthcare system. Access to medical care is extremely limited. Hospitals and clinics lack equipment, medicine is scarce, and there aren't enough doctors. Even simple diseases can be life-threatening due to lack of treatment. Malaria, malnutrition, and respiratory infections are widespread. 4. Malnutrition and food shortages. Over 40% of children in Madagascar suffer from chronic malnutrition. The diet mainly consists of rice and vegetables, with limited access to essential proteins and vitamins. Droughts and natural disasters, such as cyclones, worsen the food crisis. 5. Weak infrastructure and geographic isolation. Madagascar is geographically isolated, and many rural areas lack proper roads or transportation. This isolation makes trade and economic growth difficult, leaving many communities struggling to access even basic necessities. Can Madagascar escape poverty? Despite these challenges, international organizations and some governments are working to improve conditions. Investments in education, healthcare, and sustainable agriculture could help break the cycle of poverty. However, without strong political reforms and long-term strategies, progress will be slow. What do you think? What actions could help improve life in Madagascar? Let me know in the comments. Why is Madagascar so isolated? Even though Madagascar is the fourth largest island on Earth, it remains one of the most isolated countries. This isolation comes from a combination of geography, weak infrastructure, and economic struggles. 1. A distant and remote location. Madagascar is located in the Indian Ocean, about 400 kilometers, 250 miles, from mainland Africa. Unlike other African countries, Madagascar has no land borders, making trade and cultural exchange more difficult. While landlocked African countries can still trade via neighboring nations, Madagascar depends entirely on sea and air transport, both of which are underdeveloped. 2. Poor transportation infrastructure. One of Madagascar's biggest challenges is its lack of roads and transportation networks. Major highways are scarce, and many rural areas have no access to reliable transport. Some villagers must walk for hours or travel by boat just to reach the nearest town. This disconnect makes trade, tourism, and investment difficult. 3. A weak economy and lack of foreign investment. Severe poverty prevents Madagascar from developing industries, tourism, or global trade. Due to economic instability, foreign investors hesitate to engage with the country. Unlike nations that export manufactured goods, Madagascar still depends on traditional agriculture and raw material exports, which bring in low income. 4. Political instability and corruption. Since gaining independence in 1960, Madagascar has faced multiple coups, political unrest, and government corruption. As a result, long-term development plans have been weak, and many international aid programs have failed due to mismanagement. The lack of political stability makes Madagascar a less attractive partner for global trade and investment. 5. Limited international relations. Unlike other nations, Madagascar has fewer diplomatic and economic ties with the rest of the world. It plays a small role in international organizations, missing out on global economic and educational opportunities. Can Madagascar overcome its isolation? Despite these barriers, there is hope. Improving transportation, trade relations, and foreign investments could help Madagascar break free from isolation. But achieving this requires strong leadership, infrastructure development, and long-term economic policies. What do you think? Can Madagascar integrate with the global economy in the future? Let's discuss in the comments. Madagascar's incredible but threatened nature. Madagascar is home to one of the most unique ecosystems on Earth. 90% of its plant and animal species are found nowhere else. From lemurs and colorful chameleons to rainforests and giant baobab trees, Madagascar is a natural wonderland. But this paradise is under threat. Deforestation, unsustainable farming, climate change, and illegal hunting are pushing its wildlife to the brink of extinction. Every year, thousands of hectares of forests are cleared for charcoal production and agriculture. If this destruction continues, many rare species could disappear forever. Culture and daily life in Madagascar. Despite economic struggles, the people of Madagascar have a rich and vibrant culture that blends African and Southeast Asian traditions. This is reflected in their language, music, clothing, and traditions. 1. Language and communication. The official language is Malagasy, which has Southeast Asian roots. Due to French colonial history, French is also widely spoken. 2. Music and dance music is a big part of life in Madagascar. Traditional styles like salagi and sega are popular, and celebrations often include drumming and dancing. 3. Traditional foods. Rice is the staple food, eaten in almost every meal. Some local dishes include romazava, a vegetable and meat stew, mofo gasi, a sweet Malagasy bread. In coastal areas, fish and seafood are commonly eaten. 4th, family and lifestyle. Malagasy families are typically large and closely connected. Respect for elders and ancestors is an important cultural value. 5. Spiritual beliefs and traditions. Around 50% of the population follows traditional animist beliefs, honoring ancestral spirits. One famous tradition is Famadehana, the ritual of rewrapping the bones of ancestors, accompanied by music and celebration. Final thoughts. Madagascar is a land of stunning contradictions, breathtaking nature but extreme poverty, a rich culture but a struggling economy, a beautiful island yet one of the most isolated nations on Earth. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content. What are your thoughts on life in Madagascar? Let me know in the comments.